7:21. Our next week's broadcast on this channel will be a summary coming on at 8 hours. We now have Ndalama Insights.
Are you looking for a program to start a business, grow an existing one, or manage your personal finances? Your search stops right here. Join Mukonki Mukonkela from Inside Partners Africa every Tuesdays at 0720 hours on the Ndalama Insights Business Show, a program that gives you the best and most practical, actionable insights.
It's Tuesday again, and we talk money matters, courtesy Inside Partners Africa. And of course, we welcome you to another exciting episode of Ndalama Insights, your trusted source for understanding of the financial world. My name is Lina Zulu, and today we're diving into the 2025 Zambia National Budget, focusing on how it aims to build resilience and secure our nation's economic future. Allow me to welcome our guest, our financial expert in studio, Mukonki Mukonkela from Inside Partners. Mukonki, it's nice to have you.
Good to have you, Lina. Good to see you, and good morning, everyone.
All right. So Mukonki will help us unpack the budget from a government and macroeconomic policy perspective.
Yeah.
How does this budget position Zambia for resilience and stability in the face of economic challenges, Mukonki?
Thank you, Lina. So the 2025 national budget, which was presented in Parliament, it was last week Friday, is themed Building Resilience for Inclusive Growth and Improved Livelihoods. So this budget is designed to address Zambia's current economic challenges. We are all facing them as a result of the drought and several other economic factors that are affecting or impacting Zambia's economic development. So the focus really for government is to ensure microeconomic stability, as well as debt management and fiscal consolidation. Today we're using big words, Lina.
I know, right? I know.
Yeah.
Consolidating.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll try to break them down.
Yes, please, for our listeners. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the general aim of the government. Really, it's to ensure stability in the economy and also consolidate the debt and manage the debt really well. We know that we've got quite a huge stock of external debt, even local debt, by the way, which I'm also going to talk about soon. Yeah.
All right. So let's start with the big picture. What are the government's key objectives in this budget when it comes to overall economic stability?
So the government has really set very ambitious goals, but they always do. In fact, firstly, the target for GDP, which is the gross domestic produce for 2025, has been projected to grow by 6.6%. So GDP is basically all the goods and services that we produce as a country. That's what GDP is. Compared to last year, 2024, the GDP stood at 2.3% growth. So you can already see that from 2.3 to get to 6.6% in 2025 is quite an ambitious goal. But this is a clear sign that the government really is aiming to jumpstart the economy following the impact of the drought and the economic challenges that we are facing. So the emphasis really is on ensuring that we've got a resilient economy, an economy that can bounce back regardless of challenges that we are facing. But also the emphasis is on moving away from traditional copper and also increasing investments in industries like agriculture, energy, more especially energy and tourism. So this is what I was able to glean from the focus in terms of the objectives of the government. Yes.
All right. That's a very promising target. But we all know that Zambia's debt burden has been a major challenge in the recent years. How is the government planning to manage this in 2025?
So I think they'll continue on the path they took this year. We saw this year government really working very hard to ensure debt restructuring. Now, debt management is still a top priority for Zambia, because if we look at our external debt stock, it stands at slightly over 15 billion United States dollars, and whereas the local debt stands at 37.3 billion Zambian kwachas. So even our local debt is quite significant. So the government has been engaging in debt restructuring. We saw that particularly with the external creditors like China, and the Paris Club and others. This is really critical because without this debt restructuring, Lena, our debt service would have really ballooned and would have been very unsustainable, and it would have really crowded out services, social services that majority Zambians enjoy, that are not able to afford, social services and others. So it's a very important aspect in terms of the 2025 budget, the debt consolidation and ensuring efficient debt management.
Right. Okay, so that debt restructuring sounds like a very positive step, but does it really free up enough resources to go or to be channeled to other critical areas of the economy?
It definitely does, Lena. And by successfully negotiating these deals, what the government did was they reduced the debt service obligations. So rather than paying maybe about 8 billion United States dollars, they're now paying just around 599 million US dollars in 2025. That's what they'll be expected to pay. So this creates space for government to invest in key sectors like energy, agriculture, tourism, even infrastructure development. These are key areas that will enable Zambia to start growing its economy. Now, without these debt deals, this could not have been possible, because we are seeing, instead of paying 8 billion United States dollars, it's dropping down to around 599 million in 2025. It's a huge drop that will give us enough cash flow to ensure we invest in the key sectors and ensure we really start building a resilient economy.
Fantastic. Now talking space, like physical space, how does the government plan to generate revenue to fund this very ambitious budget?
So the 2025 budget really aims to increase domestic revenue to at least 21.3% GDP.
Right.
And this they're aiming to achieve mainly through enhanced tax collection and broadening the tax base. So let me talk about the enhanced tax collection bit. We've heard a lot about smart invoice. In fact, the deadline for implementation of smart invoice was yesterday. So smart invoice is supposed to ensure efficient tax collection. And we heard from the commissioner, I think in the news last week, even Friday itself, that they are not going to extend the implementation of smart invoice. So you can see how serious government is in ensuring that there's efficient tax collection. But I think more can be done on ensuring we have a broadened tax base. What it simply means, Lena, is very few Zambians actually contribute towards taxes. So when it comes to broadening the tax base, government really needs to work hard to ensure that at least majority Zambians are able to contribute a small amount towards taxes. So I hope that the broadening of the tax base, and when we talk about broadening the tax base, I hope that government is also going to focus on the informal sector. Majority Zambian businesses are informal. They are not registered with PACRA. Nobody knows them. They know them. If you go to
there's no tax coming from there.
There's no tax coming from there. If you go to Comesa, if you go to many markets, you find there's informal business trade going there, but those people are millionaires, I must tell you. So we need to capture these as well so that they contribute towards the tax base. And that's what the broadening of the tax base is about. So that is,
What about reduction of borrowing?
So the government is really aiming to reduce its debt stock, but as we can see, there's actually been a slight increase in the borrowing in terms of the debt.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's now also talk about inflation. With inflation currently at 15.6%, how is the government addressing this challenge?
So it's quite interesting in terms of the trajectory the government has taken in terms of addressing inflation. You see, they've got a target, and they always have this target. Inflation right now stands at over 15%, but they're targeting a reduction to about 6 to 8%, a range of 6 to 8% in 2025. Again, that's a very ambitious goal.
I was about to say, feasible,
So to achieve this, the government is aiming to focus on price stabilization, which simply means increasing production in agriculture, and also ensuring that they address the energy crisis, which is really driving up costs across the board. Energy crisis. And of course, government always also keeps an eye on monetary policy by working with the Bank of Zambia, where inflation goes where, if you like, the government through BOZ always comes back to ensure stabilization through monetary policy implementation. So this is the route that the government has taken. in terms of managing inflation.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. In case you're just tuning in, this is Ndalama Insights, and today's edition is looking at the 2025 national budget. So we are looking at, what it is and just debunking it for everyone. And it sounds
Mm.
like a very comprehensive approach to stabilizing the economy, all these measures that are being put in place.
Mm.
But what about longer term strategies, Mokonki, for economic resilience? How is the budget planning to diversify Zambia's economy?
So interesting. There are some things the minister mentioned in the budget, and one of the key pillars of the budget is actually boosting agriculture. There's a lot of mention of farming blocks if you read the budget speech itself. So, in trying to ensure production in agriculture through ensuring these farming blocks are able to produce and contribute towards the food basket. So that's one area. The other one is ensuring agro processing and also to ensure that Zambia becomes a regional food hub. So that's the aim of the government. In manufacturing, the focus is on value addition, that is turning raw materials like copper and cotton into finished products for export.
Absolutely.
And also there's emphasis on tourism. If we look at previous years, because of COVID-19, our tourism sector wasn't performing really well. But because of the incentives government had put in for tourism, we're actually seeing a huge turnaround in terms of tourism. Even if you go to our biggest tourism spots like Livingston, you can actually see a huge change. And this is coming as a result of the efforts and implementations in terms of actions that government, incentives that government put towards the tourism sector. So that is what I can say about diversifying away from Zambia, ensuring Zambia diversifies away from copper and ensuring a strong economy.
Right.
Mm.
Massive, massive groundwork that the government is doing there.
Yeah.
Let's now move on to job creation.
Mm.
What's your take on the budget's ability to create jobs and promote inclusive growth?
Lina, majority Zambia is youth. So if government doesn't mention job creation, it really becomes hard for young people. But let me say, with government, what I've seen, the focus really is in ensuring reviving of the mining sector. There's been mention of new mines, such as the one at Kitumba mine in Mumbwa, which is a brand new mine that is expected to contribute at least 2,500 jobs. There's also been mention of reviving Shaft 28 in Luansha, which is expected to create at least 3,000 jobs. And of course, we know the story about KCM and Mopani. KCM started operations this year. Mopani also is on board. So there's a lot of government has really focused on ensuring revamping the mining sector and also ensuring job creation in these sectors. But I think, and we also have initiatives such as the youth. Um, so we have a cash for work program, which is also supposed to help youths in terms of unemployment and also help the vulnerable communities to contribute. So if they're able to do some work, clean roads, do some work in their communities, they are getting paid to do this work. So it's called the cash for work program. But I still think there's quite a lot that needs to be done to ensure entrepreneurship for young people and ensuring that skills development. We need to have a targeted approach towards enhancing youth skill development and entrepreneurship, and actually seeing youth being placed in employment where they are utilizing their skills really well.
Absolutely.
And perhaps let me go back and talk about inflation again, Lina, and the impact on the locals. You see, I was expecting for the payee has still been maintained at 4,800, that the minimum amount not deductible for tax. So I was expecting, at least because of inflation, at least an increase in the minimum amount deductible, disallowable for taxation. But we didn't see anything there. So
I was also looking forward to that.
yeah, so
yeah, I'm sure a lot of people were. But quickly, just before we go, that's a very thorough overview or summary of the budget so far, Mukonki. Before we wrap up, though, can we also look at the risks? What are some of the potential challenges or pitfalls that could hinder the successful implementation of the 2025 national budget?
Yeah, there's so many risks, and not just in Zambia, all over the world, governments are, grappling with risks. And one of the first risk is global economic conditions. So, if where we see a downturn, perhaps in copper prices, as well as rising global interest rates, this could negatively impact Zambia's revenue and borrowing costs. So, imagine we've already got a huge debt stock. So if global interest rates were to increase, this would actually, in fact, impact Zambia's borrowing costs. Secondly, climate change is still with us. It's a major risk, particularly for the agriculture and energy sectors. We've seen what the drought has done to us. And in terms of the energy sector, we've really seen the impact that lack of electricity is the way it's impacting businesses. So the budget includes measures to mitigate these risks through such measures as investing in irrigation as well as renewable energy and diversifying away from the hydro energy that we've relied on for several years. So government now is trying to focus on renewable energy. How can we invest in this so that we diversify away from hydro energy? And another thing that's interesting in terms of what government is proposing is the stabilization fund. So this is a fund that they want to utilize to handle any emergencies that the country faces, like the emergency we faced with regards to drought affecting several households because of reduced food production. So the stabilization fund is like an emergency fund, and they want to use the mineral royalty, the excess of mineral royalty, to fund this stabilization fund that can be utilized in periods when we have emergencies as a country. So for me, I think this was a great initiative that the government has. I mean, I always talk about emergency funds for individuals. It's high time we also had an emergency fund through the stabilization fund that the minister mentioned during the budget speech.
Absolutely. All right. So it's very clear, Mokonki,
Yeah.
that while the budget presents some promising opportunities, there are
Mm.
also significant challenges ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for a detailed insight of what the budget is,
Thank you
for
so
us.
much. I
All
hope I
right.
hope you learned one or two things.
Always, always. I learn a lot from you. Always, all the time. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you and good morning, everyone.
All right, and so to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to Ndalama Insights today. As always, we encourage you to stay informed and take charge of your financial future. Until next time, my name is Lina Zulu. Stay financially savvy.